Well, he'd better not. Hello, my royal lovelies, and welcome back to the channel. In today's video, we are going to be talking about Prince Harry. Apparently, he will not be updating his memoir, Spare, when it returns in paperback form. But we'll get to that in a moment. But before we go into that, I want to say a massive thank you to everyone who has been watching my videos as of the last 3, 4, 5 videos. Thank you so much. I really do appreciate it. It makes me feel valued and wanted on this platform. So thank you so much. Right, let's get into today's murky waters. Let's put on those waders, those rubber boots, a little bit like Wellington boots, all the way up to our thighs, because we're getting into some murky, muddy, watery territory. Oh my goodness. So, apparently, an olive branch from Prince Harry, while of course Catherine and King Charles battle cancer. The Duke of Sussex, Prince Harry, the Wonder Boy, yes, I am rolling my eyes, will finally release his memoir, Spare, or as I like to call it, Spare Me, or Spare Us, in paperback form. I hear the masses are cheering, the church bells are ringing, people are out in the streets rejoicing, because this is what we have been waiting for. Spare in paperback. Oh, I got that wrong. People have not been eagerly awaiting Prince Harry's memoir Spare in paperback form. I do jest with you. I was being ironic, my loves. This is something that we don't really care about. I mean, to be perfectly honest, I didn't read the last lot of drivel, and apparently he's got 400 pages of more drivel to spare us with. Oh my goodness, I hope he does spare us. I mean, he threatened, didn't he? Do you remember that there was another 400 pages that he could release because he had to cut it because there was so much? In other words, what he actually admitted to was that there was so even more vitriolic anger and hatred and retribution aimed at his family. So again, he completely missteps with the PR, doesn't he? He says too much. That's his trouble. And I know the Sussex squad like to say that never complain, never explain is like the worst thing in the world. But actually, it does save you a few headaches in the future because it prevents you from dropping yourself in it. And that is exactly what Harry and Meghan have been doing. They have been dropping themselves in it, I think ever since they got married, to be quite honest. And in particular, ever since they've left the royal family. They just drop themselves in it. If they just shut up and shut their gobs, shut their traps, maybe they need to get their jaws wired together. I don't know. If they just kept their lips zipped, then, there would be less for the media to come back at them for. Instead, they tie themselves up in knots. A lot of these things that they say, that they claim, are completely fact-checkable. And when people fact-check and actually dig a little bit deeper, you can see what big fat liars Harry and Meghan are. And in particular, that Harry has got such a warped memory. He even admitted it himself. His memory is completely in tatters. And I think the trauma of losing his mother, which I do not deny that both boys, obviously men now, but when they lost their mother, they were, young men, young adults, boys, if you like. They've both gone through trauma, and I'm not denying that the trauma would not, trigger memory sort of lapses. But to go out and out, but if you're having these memory lapses, it's dangerous to then put it in book form, release it to the public as if it is the truth. Because let's not forget, he is presenting fiction as fact. He's doing exactly what he argues that the press and the newspapers shouldn't do. He wants the press. He wants to control the press and say that they should put out the truth and only factual stuff. When, we all know that, news publications often pitch or put out opinion as fact. They present that in that way. That's exactly what Spare is. It's exactly what Harry has chosen to do. Remember, nobody held a gun to his head and made him release Spare. He did it all of his own accord. He is presenting his opinion of his warped memories as fact. And he threatened that there was another 400 pages of this complete drivel. I think he was trying to railroad the King and William into submission, and it just didn't work. I think he was probably shocked when the palace just turned around, and quite rightly so, ignored him, because it's the best thing that you can do to a pair of complete narcissists. Ignore them. It's the best thing you can do. And I know I can hear you saying, but you're talking about him here now on the channel, and you're talking about Harry and Meghan and all the rest of it. Well, that's because I just want to call them out on their complete load of bluster and nonsense. It's completely ridiculous, my loves. So anyway, apparently reports are coming out, probably from the Sussex camp themselves, saying that he will not update Spare in paperback form. Now, he could do, there has been water under the bridge since he released Spare. We are, a year or more now into King Charles's reign. There are things that he could update on that people would be interested in. I mean, I'm not saying for one moment that people were not interested in what was in Spare. People did want to see his version, but I think people quite cottoned on to the fact that it really was his version of events, and that his version is not necessarily the version, is not necessarily the truth. And of course, the royal family have not had, I suppose, the same capability to reply. So we've only had one side of the story, and I think people are very aware of that completely. So is he just being nice and saying, oh, I'm not going to release it? No, there's stuff going on. We've had a few stories now about about coming together. Reconciliation is the R word I was looking for. I'm so used to saying retribution because that's exactly what he does. Reconciliation, forgiveness have all been topics in a few stories recently. We had the story that King Charles had consulted with members of the clergy, spiritual advisors that recommend forgiveness. We've had the Harry and Meghan story where apparently Meghan, this is laughable, has been urging Harry to forgive the king when it should be the other way around. My goodness. You couldn't write it, could you? Anyway, she's been encouraging him to forgive the king. And then we've had this story that he won't update Spare, presumably as some sort of olive branch or peace offering. So I think there's something a-brewing, my loves. Now, whether or not we want it to happen is irrelevant, because we are not the interested parties in all of this. It's William, it's King Charles, and it's Harry and Meghan. And to a lesser extent, the wider royal family, who I'm sure have been giving their opinions every now and again. I'm sure Princess Anne is fond of perhaps giving a little bit of advice from time to time, whether or not, King Charles wishes to accept it. But she is very level-headed, and I'm sure she's given some good advice. So the main players in all of this, it's up to them. It's their decision. We only have the right to sit here and watch from afar and come to our own conclusions based on what is going on. Personally, I think it's all about trust. Harry and Meghan are not trusted by the royal family. Even if there was a level of forgiveness, I don't think that the trust is there. So without the trust, I don't think Harry and Meghan are going to be invited back into the fold as they were. Even even if forgiveness is given, like I say, this lack of trust, I feel, will prevent Harry and Meghan from coming back to full-time working duties. And I think they will still be kept at arm's distance, especially with information that could be leaked. Like I say, forgiving, and as many of you commented as well, forgiving is not forgetting. And that trust needs to be earned. And I think the trust is going to be irreparably broken down between brothers. I think, don't forget, when William is king, Harry's going to have to deal with William. And William, I think, is even more hardline and hardcore than King Charles, because obviously Harry is still King Charles's son. And by the way, I don't believe any of that nonsense that King Charles didn't father Harry, that Harry is fathered by James Hewitt. I don't believe that for a moment. You've only got to look at Charles's eyes and that midsection of face. Harry has the same face. And actually, as Harry is getting older, he's looking more and more and more like King Charles. He really is. Put the photos side to side if you don't believe me. Anyway, I digress from the main point. When William is king, Harry is going to have to deal with William. And as much as King Charles might be to a lesser extent, a bit of a soft touch, remember, he's still his father. You still have that love for your children, even if your children have done you wrong. And even if your children deserve to be kept at arm's length, there's still that parent-son bond. William, different kettle of fish. I think he's more hardline. I think he's more serious. And I think Harry is not going to get away with anything. So if Harry, there must be a sense of urgency, especially with King Charles's cancer diagnosis, for Harry to make amends as soon as possible. Because if it's too late and William is king, there is no way that Harry is getting back into any kind of royal fold in any kind of capacity. So I think when Harry made his desperate dash across the pond to the UK to see King Charles after the cancer diagnosis, I think it sharpened the focus on Prince Harry's aims. And I think Harry and Meghan both got scared because they were like, oh my goodness, I was going to say a swear word there, but oh my goodness, if anything did happen to the king, it's William we're dealing with. And he is not going to be very amenable, let's put it that way. So I think Harry and Meghan are running a little bit scared. And I think that the cancer diagnosis has been the catalyst in all of this, with all these stories coming out about forgiveness and reconciliation. It's all starting to kind of piece together. Now, we have a very important time coming up over the next, so many months. It's coming up to Christmas. Now, we know that Christmas, we assume, because King Charles has followed his late mother's pattern of summer at Balmoral, Christmas at Sandringham. So we think there's going to be invitations sent out to the Sandringham Christmas. Now, we don't know really who has been invited until we see who turns up on Christmas Day. So I always love Christmas Day because you get to see who's in or who's out. Obviously, Harry and Meghan have been out for a number of years. Now, I think that things are gearing up perhaps for a Harry and Meghan invite to Christmas, but we'll have to wait and see, won't we? I just think there's too much in the air about all this reconciliation and forgiveness to just completely discount it. I do not want to see Harry and Meghan strolling. Can you imagine the grin, the perma grin on her face as she strolls from Sandringham to be, broadcast around the globe at Sandringham Christmas when they arrive at church? It would be absolutely nauseating. But I just can't help to think. I can't discount it, is what I'm trying to say. I can't help but think that this is something potentially that could happen. I don't want it to, but it could do. Let's not forget we are dealing with families, with complex relationships, and, I just think it's something that we need to talk about at this stage. Let me know in the comments section, what do you think King Charles should do? And also let me know in the comments section what you think Prince William as King William would do as well. Because like I say, I don't think that William is going to be amenable to Harry, especially if Harry and Meghan carry on the way that they are. So let's get back to the re-release or the paperback edition of Spare. So this, unfortunately, is it unfortunate or is it coordinated? I'm not quite sure. But it is funny how Harry and Meghan seem to do things at times when other royals have got something important on. So it does clash with King Charles's appearance at the Commonwealth Heads of Government meeting in Samoa. This is the first time that he will have attended since acceding to the throne and of course becoming head of the Commonwealth. The meeting will be held from the 21st to the 25th, with Harry's paperback being published in the US on October the 22nd and then in the UK 2 days later. Now it is unusual for such a high-selling book, when it makes it onto paperback, to not have an update. So is this a sign, a peace offering, an olive branch from Harry? If it is, then it's not a very good one, because you don't offer a peace offering with, the proviso or the condition. It's like a barbed peace offering, isn't it? The peace offering is that I'm not going to try and harpoon you and take you down even more than what I already have done, is essentially what Harry is saying. So when we get this kind of story coming out, again, it's bad PR for Harry. If Meghan is trying to spin something to make it look positive, oh, Harry's, forgiving, we can just see completely straight through it. They open them by talking a lot, by giving all these word salads. They open themselves up to more and more and more criticism, and it shows their way of thinking. And it's not the way of thinking that is conducive to reconciliation and forgiveness. And to be honest, the palace, King Charles, Prince William, have got nothing to prove anymore. Harry and Meghan have done what they've done. They've absconded. They've gone off to the lofty lands of Montecito, haven't they, my lovies? Chickens galore. Chicken legs and chickens in hen coops and eggs. And do you think that she goes out every morning picking eggs? Because I don't. The only thing she picks when she wakes up in the morning is her own nostrils, as she tries to think of more dastardly, wicked, appalling ways to treat the royal family and take them down. That's all she's trying to do. Anyway, you get the gist of this video. I think there's something afoot. There's something weird going on. There's too many stories coming out about reconciliation and forgiveness. And I think Christmas is going to be a time when maybe we'll see something happening. I hope that they remain strong and steadfast, and that they keep them at arm's length. A barge pole is what is needed. A barge pole with a cattle prod, an electrified cattle prod on the end, to keep those two grifters at length away from the royal family would be the best thing ever. So anyway, thank you for watching this video. Please let me know in the comment section all of what you think about this, because I really am interested in knowing. I do read all of the comments, even if I don't get around to liking them. I do read all of them. So thank you so much to everyone who comments. If you have enjoyed this video, please give it a big old thumbs up. Don't forget to share on social media. And of course, do hit that bell so that you know whenever I upload a new video. So from me, mwah, to you all, my lovies, and goodbye.